Yes, we are.
We are.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Charlene Smith, Director of Recreation Resources Service, and today we have our PARTF application webinar. So this will be just a webinar with the basics. We'll have, if you open up the chat on the window, you can put in any questions you have there. We'll facilitate answering those during the Q&A portion of this. So right now, we'll turn it over to the Division of Parks and Recreation, our Grants and Outreach Program folks, Lillian Heaton and Vonda Martin. And I'll turn it over to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlene. We're going to start with introductions of the division staff or the Grants and Outreach Program staff. My name is Vonda Martin. I am the manager for the Grants and Outreach Program here in Raleigh, and my cohort in crime.
Lillian Heaton. I'm the state grant specialist, so I handle PARTF, Accessible Parks, the Helene Recovery Fund, and the Great Trail State Program.
So we're going to let RRS introduce themselves. Charlene, if you would like to kind of herd those, how that happens, and so that you are familiar with your Recreation Resource Services consultants. They are your first point of contact. That's probably not the last time that you're going to hear that information. So, yeah. Charlene, back to you.
Okay, we'll start with Blake Covington in the West.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Blake Covington, and I'm the RS consultant for the western portion of the region. So basically, Watauga, Burke, and Cleveland County, everything west of that area is who I serve. So if you're in that region and we haven't met, I look forward to meeting and working together soon. And if we have met, good to see all of you.
All right, Trey Fouché.
Hey folks, I'm Trey Fouché. I cover what we call Central North, which is sort of the northern part of the Piedmont, stretching from Ashe County all the way to Orange County and sort of Iredell County north, if you kind of draw a straight line across Iredell County, all the way over to Chatham and Orange. Again, if I haven't met you, look forward to working with you if you have a PARTF application or other. And certainly those folks that I have met, good to see you on this call.
All right, and Terry Stowers.
Hi, I'm Terry Stowers. I am the regional representative for the Central South region. It goes from Hickory to Fayetteville across the southern part of the state. I'm looking forward to meeting those of you that are new on this call, and feel free to reach out at any time.
All right. Great. And Scott Payne.
Hi, I'm Scott Payne. I am the Northeast Region consultant. I go from Wake County to Terrell County, up to the Virginia border, then west along the border to Person County and back down again. Please reach out anytime if you have any questions.
All right. And Brittany Shipp.
Hello, I'm Brittany Shipp. I'm the Southeast Region consultant. So I pick up where Scott leaves off on the northern part at Hyde, Beaufort County, that area, and then follow the coast down to the South Carolina line with Brunswick County and coming over to Columbus and back up Bladen, Sampson County. So super excited to see such a great turnout and look forward to working with you guys on your projects.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And Wanda, I'll turn it back over to you, but you know, these, like you said, first point of contact are RRS consultants, and please reach out to them if you have any questions or just want to talk about ideas for the grant. They can help you work through those for sure.
All right, so we're going to kick in the presentation here and get started. So welcome to the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund 2025 webinar. We just completed the welcome and staff introductions. So I just want to share a little bit, go through the agenda really quick with you. We'll do a program overview, an application overview, and then we'll take questions from the audience. And so you can place your questions in the chat, like Charlene said, for those that may not have heard that. We'll be monitoring the chat and be able to facilitate your questions. If you have specific questions about your project that's not going to be something that is beneficial to the entire group, You probably want to get up with your RS consultant at a later time. So here we go. All right, so we also wanted to make sure that we provided our contact information. This is being recorded so that we can share it as needed. So you can see our team listed out along with our contact information, as well as Recreation Resources Service. For a shortcut, you can do RSNCSU, and that'll take you right to their website. Otherwise, it's go.ncsu.edu/RS. And you're in really good hands. Charlene and the Recreation Resource team provides exceptional support for Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grants. And so we hope that you definitely connect with them and allow them to assist you. Just a big overview of the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. The division shares the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund in 3 different areas, 4 if you count DuPont. State parks get 65%, DuPont gets 4% of their 65%, local grants get 30%, and beach access gets 5%. So since 1994, the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund is awarded matching grants for parks, public beach access, and improvements in state parks. 30% of party funds are allocated to local governments to reach their park and public access goals to improve quality of life in your communities. So we're super excited to share the 25-26 annual grant timeline with you. We are required by legislation to post the notice of funding opportunity by November the 1st. So it was posted on October 31st. We put in an application review deadline for RRS to be able to assist you specifically. But you have to have the majority of your application in web grants or somehow formulated for them to be able to assist you. But if you have your application in a good form and you have it in web grants by March 13th, Recreation Resource, your consultant, is available to assist with the review. Otherwise, the deadline for the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund is May 1st at 5 p.m. That's the application deadline. August 28th of 2026 is when the grants will be selected by the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. The Parks and Recreation Authority. That meeting is held here in Raleigh, and there's also an opportunity for us to live stream it for you, so that you don't have to travel to Raleigh. That's an all-day thing though, so, take your pick there. And then November the 1st, the project period, if you are awarded a grant, will be November 1st, 2026. You can't start your project until then. And that would end October 31st, 2029. You have a 3-year project period. All right, so who is eligible for the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund? So North Carolina counties and incorporated municipalities are eligible for PARTF grants, along with public authorities if you are authorized to acquire land or develop recreational facilities for the general public. Projects can be to acquire land for parks, to build or renovate recreation facilities for use by the public. A PARTF grant can also be used to protect the natural and scenic resources or renovate older park facilities. A project must be located on a single site. Your maximum request is $500,000 for each application. Yes, and it is a dollar-for-dollar match by the local government. The appraised value of land to be donated by an applicant can be used as part of your match. If you have questions or if you have land acquisition opportunities, please get with your consultant early so that they can advise you in the best way that they can to make sure that you get exactly what, as much as you can for your match. The value of in-kind services are not eligible, cannot be used as part of your match. All matching funds must be provided in the grant project period and on your budget in web grants. There is also a 25-year lease requirement and it should extend 25 years from your anticipated completed date of the project if you are awarded. And the project period is 3 years. So we just say it'd probably be in your best interest if you are going to acquire property is to have a 30-year lease that covers you for the 3 years of your project period as well as the 25-year requirement. You're also responsible for maintaining and operating your site. If you are developing or renovating a park, it has to be operated and maintained for 25 years. Land acquisition, if you are purchasing property with party funds, it has to be operated and maintained for public recreation in perpetuity. All right.
And just to touch on for site control for development projects, the applicant has to have legal control of the property at the time of application, so by May 1st, whether it's leased or owned outright.
Great. Thank you, Lily. So we have some additional program requirements, cost to build and renovate facilities. You're submitting cost estimates as part of your application. That budget that is in your application will become part of your contract. You can get estimates from contractors, architects, or planners who develop parks and recreation facilities. Cost estimates are really important. They become part of your contract. And, RS will work with you to help you also, but consider the impact of inflation by assuming that the project may be completed over a 3-year period after the grantee signs a contract with the state. So for development projects, the grantee is expected to begin substantial work within 1 year after the execution of the grant contract project period. We've talked about that a couple times. It is a 3-year process. And environmental reviews, the grantee must take into consideration all comments made by state agencies during the environmental review of the project under the provisions of the State Environmental Policy Act. Please get with your consultants to understand a little bit better the SEPA requirements for the grant funds through PARTF. All right, so land acquisition is a project in its own self. There are opportunities for land donations or a direct purchase for acquisition. And so your RS consultant can help you with the land donation or the acquisition of property. For donated land, there's a 5-year history of conveyance of the property, as well as the appraised value to be used for the donated amount and the 50% match of your grant. So make sure you don't take title to the property until you have either been awarded a contract or provided a waiver of retroactivity to purchase that property prior to your donation. And it's open to the public. So all new parkland acquired with party must be developed and open to the public within 3 years. We're not talking about everything being open, but it does need to become a public facility within 3 years. All right, so I'm gonna turn the rest of the project, those are just the basic project requirements. So I'm gonna turn the rest of the afternoon over to Lillian Heaton for her to share more information about the program requirements coming up. That is for these are only for the 25-26 cycle. So Lillian, take it away.
So this year for the 25-26 cycle per session law 25-26, the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund must prioritize Western NC projects. We are accomplishing this by doing an additional 10 points available in the scoring system if the project or the applicant is in the most impacted and distressed counties as identified in the HUD report and has a population of 300,000 or less based on the 2023 state demographer population estimate report. There is a section for this prioritization in the application where you have to attest that the application for funds is for repair, replacement, or construction of equipment, buildings, or natural features due to damage or effects from Hurricane Helene. And our PARTF application is online only, NT Parks Web Grants. You have to register for a Web Grants account to initiate and submit an application. And everyone that's working on the application has to have an account under your organization's profile to access the application. If you're going to use a third party to work on the grant application, please email your RS consultant to have that third party added to your organization. Just as a tip for the application, I know a lot of times in cities and counties, folks will collaborate on it. So whoever initiates the application has to add additional contacts so you can all work on the same application together. And I have a screenshot there that's when you would first initiate the application. There's a general information screen. The primary contact is whoever's initiating it. Your organization will pop up, and then there's an additional contact where it will give you options to add anybody in your organization to the application. The project contact information, all the communication about the grant application while it's in review and the award will be sent to the first contact in that section. So the local government contact. So be sure that you give us good information there. For the project information section, for the project name, we ask that you use the name of the park, current or anticipated, as this will be what's used in public records, press releases, etc. You can name your application anything you want to in the general information section. Be as creative as you want to, but for the project name, be pretty straightforward with it. Also, an address and latitude, longitude should be provided. This is used to map out the applications that's presented at the Parks and Recreation Authority meeting. All applicants have to include a certification and approval by their local governing board. There is a template in the application guide. The application guide is currently being made into a fillable PDF today. So I will email it to everybody that's registered for this webinar later on this afternoon. But please use the templates that are in there. It has all of the language that we need so that your application remains eligible for consideration. It's always sad when we have to make an application ineligible because the applicant came up with their own version of the certification. The project description and justification are both provided to the Parks and Recreation Authority as part of their review package. The description should be the what of the project. It should be very short and direct, 3 to 5 sentences, including what recreation facilities you're providing, the number of acres being acquired, things like that. Is what's used in press releases and things, so keep that in mind when you're writing it. Your justification is where you can talk about the impact and kind of tell the story of your project in your community. The site information, a site plan, there's instructions in both web grants and the application guide on creating your site plan. Your RS consultant is also a great resource to review your site plan to make sure you have all the required elements. It is especially important that you have all existing facilities, requested facilities, and future facilities on the plan, in addition to the park boundary. The attorney certification of site control for development projects, this certification is required. An application is made ineligible without it. project cost, Bonda touched on this a little bit to be sure to get accurate estimates. You are held to the project budget once it goes under contract. And when you're preparing your budget, my advice for grants is always start where you want to finish. So, sorry, there was like a weird sound thing.
Yeah, somebody must have the mic on.
Okay. Start where you want to finish. So when you're entering each line item, understand that on the award side or the grant management side, you're going to have to track expenses to each line item. So if you do groups like do playground and put in parentheses all the elements that are associated with the playground, or site amenities and all the site amenities that you're putting in, instead of doing a line item for surfacing, a line item for installation, a line item for trash receptacles, because you will have to track expenses to each individual line item.
Yeah.
And it will make your life easier if you do it a little more generally.
And ours also, but before we leave the project cost screen or the slide, I did want to share with you that we have been receiving budgets that are not well thought through. And they're borderline sloppy, and it is part of your contract. And so your project costs should match the facilities that are on your site plan, should match the total that's on your basic facts and assurance. So all of those things will need to match and line up, and your consultant at RRS that will be the first thing that they look at, and they are exceptional at catching the small things that will really matter to you later on in your project if you're awarded.
This is a screenshot of the detailed expenditure report that grantees have to submit in the grant management phase for reimbursement. Just to give you an idea, when you're preparing your project budget, the name of the work element from the project scope, that's where you would have playground, all the associated elements, site amenities, and the associated elements in each one of those blocks. So it'll make it easier on your side for tracking expenses. It'll make it easier for RS to review it, and ultimately for the division to process the payment. Project costs are used to generate the contract scope, so only elements included in your project scope are eligible for reimbursement. So be sure you capture everything in your budget. If you mention it in your description, but it's not in your budget, you can't claim it on a reimbursement on the grant management side. And finally, check your math on your budget. Planning is 20% of the total cost to build, and I have a screenshots of project costs where it totals that. So it's 20% of that 190,000 or 200,000, whichever is less. Same thing for contingency. It's 5% of the total cost to build or 50,000, whichever is less. That is one of the most common errors in project budgets, in addition to sometimes having ineligible expenses in the project cost. So after application deadline, when the DPR team is reviewing applications, ineligible expenses are removed from the budget. Planning and contingency is adjusted to the maximum allowable. So your grant request and match could then be adjusted. So it's important that you check before you submit your application.
Also, under item number 2 in your project element list on the screen, all facilities added with PARTF have to be permanent facilities, even cornhole boards. So just keep that in mind as you're working through your project.
This is a screenshot of the Western NC prioritization section in the online application. If the applicant would like to request this consideration for prioritization, just have to enter what county and make sure your county's in that HUD report for the most impacted or distressed counties from Hurricane Helene. Look at the 2023 state demographer's population report to see that your population is 300,000 or fewer. And then there is a statement for your chief elected official to sign that the project is not receiving funds, that it is for a project that was impacted by Helene and is not receiving funds from insurance or federal aid. Optional things for An application, planning, this is a comprehensive plan, this is just notes on things we see most often, in comp plan. So there's a screenshot there of everything that the evaluation team looks at in a comp plan that's submitted to see that it meets, the standards so that we can award points for it. And then if a municipality is using a county's comp plan, there must be evidence that the municipality has adopted the plan included in the application, otherwise points won't be awarded. For the recreational needs survey, the applicant must show evidence of wide distribution. And again, I put the screenshot of everything we're looking for when we review a survey to see if it's eligible for scoring. This PowerPoint will be posted on our website and RS's website, so you will have access to those screenshots too. Public meeting, must show evidence that it was widely advertised, so more than one means, and must show evidence of public support in the documentation provided. For group presentations, letters of support alone don't qualify. A meeting agenda with presentation or letter from the local government or local group as an acknowledgement or thank you for the presentations do. Governmental groups such as appointed boards do not count as civic group presentations. The environmental review, there is an extensive section in the application for the applicant to answer a series of open-ended questions and then 4 maps to be provided. Our internal environmental review staff reviews or takes a look at all these documents and the questions to make recommendations for awarded projects. So it's important that you fill that out as completely and thoroughly as possible. So we're going to open it up for questions. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question directly, please raise your hand. Charlene is going to review questions that were put in the chat so you can answer them aloud for the recording. And as a reminder, please make sure your questions benefit the collective. Project specific questions, your RS consultant can help you offline.
Okay.
Lillian, I'll kick off. I think there needs to be some clarification between the most distressed counties versus the larger group. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Let me go back to that slide. Right here, this HUD identified most impacted or distressed is the full county listed there or the HUD identified zip code. And then Mecklenburg County has partial identification with the zip code 28214. I will say that Mecklenburg County in the state demographer report, their population exceeds 300,000. So that wouldn't be eligible. But it is those full counties or those zip codes specifically.
Right, municipalities within those counties also.
Right. But not counties that were designated by FEMA as disaster areas. So some of the questions are about specific Western North Carolina counties that are not on this list.
No, the prioritization only applies to the HUD identified areas listed here.
Yeah, this
The Helene Recovery Fund is the allocation for the FEMA identified counties. That's a group of 39 counties, but this prioritization piece is specifically these HUD identified areas.
yeah, and I was going to say it's this is in the legislation, so this is why these are specified.
Yes, this is directly quoted from Session Law 2526. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we had hang on, let me see. We answered some of them in the window, but just to kind of to review, someone asked if it could be used for paved multi-use paths and greenways, and yes, those are eligible recreation facilities. The key, especially with greenways, is the site control. So looking at how you can't put sections of Greenway in a lot of different places. It has to be a single site. So definitely, as long as it meets those other eligibility requirements, including the applicant, then those are certainly eligible. Let's see, we're ready for a complex question from Jesse. Jesse, you're signed in like Jesse Day's in here like 3 or 4 times. That's questions of everybody. So Jesse asked if like a definition of how much prioritization for lean impacted counties there is. Would those jurisdictions receive up to 100% of available funds or 75% of available funds? It's more in just like the scoring system, correct? Or
Right, our way of prioritizing it is through the 10 additional points available in the scoring system. The projects then go to the Parks and Recreation Authority, and they have to consider geographic distribution, amount of funds available versus amount of funds requested, population of the areas, and the prior grant administration history when they're considering it. So there is no designation in the legislation about the percentage of funds that prioritized projects received. Awards are at the discretion of the Parks and Recreation Authority.
So we just want, we want to make sure you understand that there is prioritization points for the HUD identified, but the rest of the state should also put in applications. And so that when we organize everything for the Parks and Recreation Authority, it tells the whole story of what's happening in the state while we are prioritizing the Western North Carolina communities.
here, I'll share the map image. Does everybody see? Do you see just the map? My screen's going a little crazy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that kind of shows you those for the priority points and the zip code areas, because those are kind of odd. But we'll have that. All right. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Let's ask about the application guide will be posted on the website by viewing, and I think
It'll be
Scott
posted.
responded with
Yeah,
that.
on the division website, it'll be posted in the funding opportunity and web grants, and RS will probably put it on their website too, but I don't want to make an assumption.
We usually link to your site. That way, if it gets updated, the correct version is in one place.
Always thinking, Charlene.
But also the, if you're like work for the COG or you're a consultant, you can register for a web grants account, and that will get you on emails for notices of funding and that type of thing. But also you're in the system, and then if you're working with a community or several communities, they can request that you be added to their application. So everybody has that visible. So sign up for that. Let's see. And Michael, I think I answered your question on Jackson County. You have to come back next week for the Helene Recovery webinar.
You did, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, design and planning of future projects is not eligible. That's correct. It's only for the current project. There's a limited percentage, and it can be taking place in what, the past 2 years, I believe.
Yeah, and so the project types are acquisition, development, and acquisition and development. There's no planning or design project separate.
Good.
Great Trails was the only grant that we've had that allowed those two as their own projects.
Okay, Ally Purvis asked if a public meeting is synonymous with a public hearing.
Oh, yeah, so if you're asking if you're in your meeting, like your council meeting, you have to close the council meeting and then open a public meeting. I hope that helps answer your question. And does circulation need to be a newspaper? it can be a newspaper, it could be social media, it could be television commercials. You just need to tell us the entire story by providing the documentation in your application to show us that it was more than just, it was widely advertised, right? So however you widely advertise, you just need to show us all the avenues that you used to try to get people to come to your public meeting and learn more about the project and support the project.
I'm gonna read a little bit of Scott's answer in the chat
Yes,
just
Scott.
for the sake of the recording. For part of a public meeting does not equal a public hearing as defined by NCGS. Part of requires a public meeting exclusively for discussing the part of grant project. So I hope that helps.
And
Good job,
Scott,
Scott.
did you have anything to add on that? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yes, and as a reminder, all facilities funded with PARTF must comply with Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility guidelines. Even cornhole.
Yes, even cornhole, horseshoes, cornhole, everything.
Yeah, and so think about like from the parking space to all of your part of funded facilities. Is there an accessible path and route to that where folks can participate without any special adaptation needs? One thing, I don't know, we can probably all tell you common things we see, but I'm thinking of picnic shelter, you put a grill, don't forget to put that concrete pad all the way around the grill so someone could get up to the grill. A lot of times it's just sitting over to the side. So little things like that. Am I missing any other questions or does anybody else have a question?
Well, we know that this is not all, this webinar is not your only touch point. We've said it multiple times, recreation resources, they're listed on your screen. They are a valuable resource for everyone to use. So please reach out to your consultant. I just can't tell you, as being a former consultant and now being a manager on the backside of the administration of the grant programs, they are a wealth of knowledge. They are a great team. And they've seen a lot. And so do reach out to them. They are provided for you to have access to them while you're putting your application together. We can give you tips and tricks and all of that. Just don't wait till the last minute. You know, we can see that on web grants. Again, we also want to remind you that there's a March deadline if you want your consultant to give you a thorough review, not just technical assistance. So please don't hesitate to reach out to them. Just for minor questions or major questions, or they're available to you to help you put your best application forward.
That reminds me of a note, since it is an online application, truly do not wait till the week of the deadline to register for web grants and start your application. There is limited technical support, because it's just me here at the division. So as much as I would love to talk everybody through technical support issues the week of the deadline, it's just impossible. So please register early, start your application early, and try to get at least as much of a complete draft ready by the March 13th deadline as possible.
Is that Friday the 13th?
It is.
Oh, get it done before Friday the 13th in March, y'all.
Yeah, and as you submit things and have like portion, even if it's just a portion of your application, your consultant, your RS consultant can see that and can look at it and give you feedback directly in web grants. So everybody that's on your team contributing can see those comments and feedback. I think that's correct, right? I'm not giving feedback, it's the consultants. All right.
All right, well, we're super excited that everybody attended the kickoff workshop. You know, the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant has been on the street now for 12 days. Not that I'm asking you to get your stuff together, but do make sure that you're registered on web grants and that you touch base with your consultant. And we wish you the best of luck in your application and in the selection process.
And we will have a more detailed, like a series of application videos on our YouTube channel, and we'll send a note directly out to everybody that's registered so you can see it in more detail.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.